a beautiful Wednesday morning, and it's our live audience Wednesday. As you can see, they are all looking beautiful. Thank you all for coming. I am Tokwe Mark Odige, and with me, as usual, are the ladies. Good morning, YK is in the building.
Yo, 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 yo. Good morning to the lovely audience.
Good morning to the beautiful YK.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to MM.
Yes.
She had a baby girl.
Yes.
And I forgot to mention it yesterday. She had a baby girl on Sunday. So congratulations to Mike and MM.
Yes, so Mike has been off the show this week. Apparently,
he's on paternity leave.
He's on In fact, in Nigeria, it's only 1 week. I think abroad it's at least
3 months.
Maybe 1 month.
Okay.
But God, I'm so happy for them.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Too.
My only problem, I've warned MM not to get pregnant again.
Why?
Because my daughter seems to be following her.
Okay, when she gets pregnant, your daughter gets pregnant.
Yes, something like that.
Something like that,
Something
true.
like that.
So, yes, I get it. Mariam, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. So yesterday I went to buy coconut oil from my neighborhood supermarket. I go there often to buy coconut oil. And I've been using coconut oil for many years, so I know what it smells like, I know what it tastes like. I bought this particular one that I normally don't get. I mean, the one I normally get wasn't there. So I took this one home. The moment I put it to my nose, the smell was different. And then, you know, I have these allergies where there's chemical. My face starts to burn. That was exactly how I felt. So I was really upset about it. I took pictures of it and I put it on social media, and I was like, I'm going to hashtag everybody. But then I noticed the number on the back of the bottle. I called the person. I just went ham. How dare you put these things on the shelves? People are trying, so hard to make sure that they are protecting their health, and you people are sabotaging it. And she was like, please, madam, what are you talking about? Me, I was even expecting somebody to fight me back. Anyways, it happens that she actually lives in my estate, and then she brings another one from her house for me to see, and it's different from the one in the shops. So I've said to her to go back to that shop and find out what they have done with her product in between from when she sent it to them and when they are selling it to them. So now I am going to go back to that store and find out what has happened. And I hope
maybe they are mixing it with something else to make it.
It's so unfair.
So they would have kept the old bottles, mixed it so that they're getting more.
Whichever way, we shouldn't hurt ourselves. We can't complain about the government, and then we Nigerians are the ones hurting ourselves even more.
Government.
Who is government?
We are government.
We are government.
So on a good note, Sha, I need to give the details of how I got my compensation for the hit and run on my car. Yeah. So when I was hit, which is what you should do, take a number of the take a picture of the plate number and the situation of the dent, and try to reach any federal road safety office. Fortunately, we are like that, so I called the zonal commander.
You have leg.
She has leg, a very long one.
So the zonal commander, Mr. Samuel Bayomi, went into action immediately. Thank you so much. And he did not only make sure that he got the situation, the person arrested, he was found in Kano. They got that person to, they were going to prosecute him. So his lawyers came and we had a mediation in his office, and we settled this one time. So how
much they give you?
They settled me for my car. It was not sufficient. They have settled me. It's not plenty money.
Then ask her. Help me ask her.
They are paid. They are paid.
Secret is secret, according to Alaja.
Yes. So whenever you have an accident like that, instead of confrontation and blocking the road, take a picture and try to reach any of the agencies.
That's a good lesson.
The Vehicle Inspection Office of Lagos.
Your leg is different from everybody's leg.
In 10 minutes, I got the details of the car registration, phone number to call everything, and the person had drawn.
Whether connected or not connected, take the number and then look for any agents that you can.
When your leg is too short, you can borrow Nima's leg.
Don't borrow my leg.
Contact Nima.
It's Imran's birthday today. It's 3 years today.
Yeah! What did you? Can you imagine?
He said, my God, she was thinking of the money.
He says we should
that money she wants to use to do the party.
Okay, trust me, that money wasn't sufficient to what I spent on my car.
Well, we are happy that today is Imran's birthday.
Happy birthday.
And we are very, very happy about the fact that it took a while to get here. Every time I think about Imran, I just think of 6 months in the hospital. God will bless Imran, and God will bless you and your family.
Amen.
When we return, we'll look into the top stories of today. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. We'll be starting off newspaper review today with The Punch major headline. 8 817 Nigerians waiting for evacuation in South Africa. That's from the federal government. And the government also plans to bring back 25 detained Nigerians. And in other news, Abiodun invites Amosu, Akinlade's loyalist, to rejoin APC. IPOB can't attack me outside Nigeria, says Ngige. Stop Obaseki. Lose Edo. South-South ex-advisor Wonso Shomole. Woman stabs lover to death over daughter's birthday. In other news, submit yourself for trial, EFCC tells ex-AGF Adoke. Federal government inaugurates panel to recover 5 trillion naira AMCON debts. CBN begins charges on deposits withdrawal from above 500,000 naira. And inflation drops in August. That's good news, despite border closure from Nigeria Bureau of Statistics. So what are we talking about first? The human interest, Lover?
Yeah, the human interest, it's a very cut and dried story, but I have my own. This lady, Stella Peter, had asked her boyfriend, her living lover, the father of her child, for money for the son's birthday. Then they said violent scuffle ensued, and then she stabbed her husband, her living lover, her partner, in the back. He died. She's been charged to court. The baby is 1 year. The baby is 1, and she's been charged for murder. My own is this. So when you say violence ensued, that means that
there was scuffle.
There was a scuffle between him. Are you sure the man wasn't beating her?
Because why would she bring out a knife?
Because why would she bring out a knife? And so somebody, maybe
was he in self-defense?
Human rights, Nima, help us go and defend her.
Certainly.
May I watch crime and investigation?
She should get her lawyer. She should pay for that.
But from the back.
From the back. Stabbing from the back wasn't in self-defense.
Yeah.
Why I saw the story.
This is like vengeance.
I'm seeing more cases of female domestic abuse against male, and I'm just pained by what I'm saying.
So the 800.
Yes, so 817. Okay, so in a phone conversation with the Consul General, the Nigerian High Commission in South Africa, Godwin Adama, he confirmed that the remaining people that were meant to be moved from South Africa to Nigeria, we had about over 1,000 people who registered to be evacuated. But there were so many things that have come, that are sort of scuttling this move. First of all, the airpiece, they said they were not given landing permit, although they said that it did not seem like it was malicious or something. Maybe it was just regulatory, but they finally got it. And then they said that out of the people that registered, some of them didn't show up. And our National Assembly, they said that they have asked the Minister for Foreign Affairs to show up, and he has refused to do that. And also the Speaker for the House is saying
This Minister of Foreign Affairs, I tried to reach him too, and I was told that he does NTA interviews, and that he probably cannot come on our own show. So I'm wondering if you are not answering...
They are actually threatening him with an arrest if he doesn't show up. They have questions to ask him. They're also talking about, we have detainees in South Africa. They're talking with about 25 of them, but people are saying that there are more detainees. We need to find out.
In the camps, there are certain camps that they go and drop the foreigners. Yeah, so it's from these camps that they're getting the Nigerians, 25 from one of the camps.
Yes,
as they haven't been to all. But the National Assembly, they want to give the Onyema.
Yes, the Minister for Foreign Affairs.
No, Allen, Mr. Allen.
He's
a barrister, the owner.
They
want to recommend him to the president for an award.
I think that's fantastic. Moving on to The Nation. Major headline, disquiet in presidency over Vice President Oshibajo. And in other news, we have CBN charges on cash deposits in banks begin. Fayoshe's government left 57 billion naira debt, says Fayemi. Governor now to clear arrears. 320 Nigerians to return from South Africa today. Army begins trial of ex-GOC over missing 400 million naira, soldiers on the run. So now the CBN
charges, yes, so the CBN have started charging cash deposits for individuals over 500,000 and for corporate entities over 3 million starting today. So for every cash deposit between over 500,000, you pay about 2%.
I'll keep my money in my house
As your charges, and then for corporate entities,
So
over 3 million.
why are we all the
This
multiple
is
taxation?
This is to reduce cash flow within.
I don't get
it. That's what.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not
I saw-
CBN. PR of CBN.
We need a banker in this place because
Not just a banker, the
they
CBN.
give us stamp duty every week.
Yes.
Maintenance charge
Yes.
every week.
It's not every week, over every transaction.
Okay, so-
My business is a small business.
Sorry.
Somebody will transfer 1,000 naira to me. You will charge me 15 naira over every
This
transaction.
is for cash. For you who brings cash.
No, we're saying that the
So
online
do a
one, there's
check on
charges.
the
You use
The
PS,
cash, there's
pay stamp
charges.
duty.
Everywhere.
Everything is.
Nima,
they
you're not
charge you
PRO,
for
don't say
everything.
anything.
not
Moving on to Vanguard, please, don't say
They
anything.
don't
We are
charge
wrecking
them
for
like that
CBN
abroad
today.
now.
And now,
In fact, people that come from abroad, I will say, what are all these charges that they
okay, it's a
they
let's
keep
talk. We'll
charging
send a letter to them. And CBN, you must
They will
address
not
this
come.
issue. Moving on to Vanguard, major headline. After apology, South Africa delays airlift of returnees. Landing permit not issued to Air Peace for hours. Why xenophobic attack will not be discussed at the UNGA, that's the UN General Assembly, says Oyema. And reps to meet Buhari insist on compensations. And in other news, you can miss the picture of Major General Akim Otiki, the GOC of the 8th Division of the Nigerian Army, on wheelchair when he had to face court-martial. So this is not restricted to politicians. Everybody has cotophobia, according to...
Well, talk about, you see this picture? Okay, finish.
The picture, yeah. Moving on, we have another story. Agencies under me take directives from the president, says Oshibaju. Independence of judiciary under attack, says NBA president. And reps to reintroduce PIB, that's the Petroleum Industry Bill, estimated electricity billing, prohibition billing. Estimated electricity billing prohibition bill, others from Baja, and minimum wage, prepare for nationwide strike, Labour tells civil servants. So you want to talk about the picture? Don't add what you were going to say.
Story. Okay, so the Major General Akim Otiki, that's the former GOC. We remember the incident where 400 million was carted away by, I think, 4 soldiers. So he's been court-martialed and he's facing the panel.
And he can't walk.
And he appears on a wheelchair. And he's there, he's being represented by his lawyers, and he has asked, I think, for one of the particular people on that panel to be taken off because he says that person already has there's bad blood between them, and so they are not sure that he will get
them. I'm just happy that
judgment.
that they could put together a court martial for one person, while we have Wadume and all the people he mentioned in the conspiracy. Still waiting.
We're still waiting for them. Moving on to the Daily Sun, major headline, Northern Forces plot for 2023 presidency.
Seriously.
We have not even started this government. Move to sideline Osinbajo.
You're not supposed to say that.
VP's aide relocated out of presidential villa. AMCON, federal government constitutes task force to recover 5 trillion debts to auction 150 billion naira bonds next week. And kidnappers of Delta SAN demand 15 million naira ransom. Xenophobic attack. Air Peace airlifts fresh batch. Federal government rules out reporting South Africa to UN. Buhari dissolves Obla-led presidential committee and judiciary under threat, says Usoro, NBA president. So we go with the major headline, or?
The major headline.
Okay, so, well, the headlines, the different headlines, we're hearing that there's intense power play by Northern Forces. Some people are saying that the fate of the VP is in the president, yes, in jeopardy. So the story is that, first of all, the economic management team that's headed by Osinbajo has been dissolved, and another one has been created, Economic Advisory Council, being led by Professor Doyin Salami, and so many other agencies that they said that they report to him are no longer, will no longer be reporting to the VP. Also, allegedly, there's a memo that says that the VP needs to seek presidential approvals in any of the agencies under his supervision. So the VP has responded.
Yes.
He said, okay, you want to take the response?
His spokesperson, Laulu Akande, he says this is obviously misleading. That's on the report that the agencies no longer report to him. Agencies under him already would report to the president. That's how it was before. So he says that this report suggests that the agencies no longer report to him, And this is obviously to create discord with the presidency and, you know, attempt to create unnecessary national hysteria.
So moving on quickly, The Guardian, major headline. I just want to take one story here. We're out of time, Waiki, please. Federal government abandons Lagos Airport facility repairs and maintenance. NMIA in sorry state despite 52.5 billion naira from outbound passengers yearly. So, Nima.
So the FAA, that's the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, you know, have completely abandoned the Muritala Mohammed International Airport here in Lagos, which is what the story is talking about. Even though travelers outside Nigeria have to pay a whatever cost of $50, which is about 17,500 naira every time they fly. And we have about daily over how many people?
Yearly 52 billion comes 52 into billion, that's supposed to maintain the airport. And
so
where is that money going to?
So with this money coming in, the state of, in the report, the state of all the facilities within the airport was taken, and they are completely, you know...
You can't use our... If you use the toilet in enemy, if you use the toilet in enemy, you will go to the...
The ACs are not working, the toilets are bad, everything.
Talk about the toll gates.
The lights.
Do you know how much we pay? That toll gate
the toll gate is to maintain the road. The airport bill. That's what the toll gate is there for. This one, this specific money is meant to maintain the airport.
The Lagos State government still constructed the road now.
The Lagos State government that did that road.
They generate funds within the airport just for revenue purpose without, you know, putting back.
Really sad.
At least I have to pay.
That's all we can take today on the newspaper review. When we return, we'll take our lineup of hot topics. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. There's apprehension in Rivers State over the alleged existence of a serial killer or serial killers said to be targeting women in Port Harcourt, specifically the state capital. According to the report, 10 girls have been killed within the last 2 months. What are your thoughts on this? Join the conversation by calling us on 070-8066-8014, or you could tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC. Now, we've gotten a response from the police saying that they've been doing something about it, but there's still ongoing protests that the response is slow. So they say there's a particular way these killings take place. There's a white handkerchief. The handkerchief
white
is
cloth, not
white cloth is used to strangle them, and so
put it around their waist as well. But in the papers today, the police have responded. They said they have arrested 2 suspects. They've also said all the hotels in Rivers State have been directed to put in CCTV cameras, and they have, all the hotels that don't have CCTV cameras are being closed down.
Yes.
Because, and then they want all the hotels to teach their staff about security. So to say that the police isn't responding would be wrong information.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Yeah, I have seen. I've also seen a video on social media which has to be confirmed, of course. And the police was saying something about the sort of people who have been killed. They are alleging that these people are prostitutes. And it has brought in it has opened like a new wave of conversation. So people are almost saying that, well, they deserve it. That if these women are women of the night, maybe that is why they are going through what they're going through. And we had women who are protesting in Rivers State now in Port Harcourt against this and also against prostitution. See, my Nigerian people, see, in this case right now, I think prostitution is one thing. Murder is another thing. And the punishment for prostitution is not murder.
Not murder.
So what we should be looking at is that there are women that are being killed. Simple. There's someone on the loose. He will start with women who may be prostitutes or not and move on to non-prostitutes. And also, they have confirmed that some of the women that have been killed are staff of the hotel. So you see why it's not good to just judge just because women are in a hotel rooms being killed. I'm happy that the police seem to be right on it, and they're just trying to advise people on like the hotels, what they should do and what women how women should be careful, because there was also another story of a woman who does business, and she said someone called her to come to the hotel, but because of what had been happening, she was more aware of what the dangers might be, going to go and see someone you have never met before. So we should be careful, but we should not just judge people who are
I
clean
have
in
a
hotels.
problem with such general profiling. I suffered one on Friday. So I usually get profiled and stopped by police officers because I have a dealer number, plate number on my car. This car, I personally pay for its registration at the motor vehicle inspection in Lagos State. I personally do the renewal annually, and I know how much it costs to get it for my husband's business. So I don't understand how you stop me every time when this person, what will you now do to a car that doesn't have any plate number, that cannot be traced? Just keep stopping. Hey, madam, is it for sale? Okay, give us money. Such general profiling is always wrong and is discriminatory. That is the situation we have with the prostitution profiling now. Even if the police were investigating a trend, it shouldn't come out in media that the women, because of the way they were gotten or the way they were killed, are prostitutes, or where they were killed are prostitutes. That general statement is too bland, too general, to, and it will cover innocent, and then it can also mislead during investigation. You might start to look to red light area, districts and expecting to find the culprits in those areas, whereas they pick their people from other areas. I think it's very wrong to do such, profiling.
So, there's another thing that the police said they discovered, that they feel that some of these women were drugged because there wasn't any form of struggle. That it wasn't based on the coroner's report. I don't think there was an autopsy carried out because the detail it wasn't detailed there. What they said was because there was they didn't identify any form of struggle between the women that were murdered, and so they felt that they must have been drugged. And we keep hearing, what we're discussing this is, we might not be in Port Harcourt, but some people in Port Harcourt are watching, and this person doing this in Port Harcourt has gotten away with it, might decide to try another society or another place.
There's a report.
So 9 reports actually happened in Port Harcourt, but one of such similar reports happened in Owerri.
So let's be aware. Don't take a drink that you don't know where it's coming from, or you don't know the person giving you the drink. Don't have meetings in an hotel room, and then the police also made a statement now that hotels that do short time should no longer be allowed, and every hotelier should take the...
allowed to open themselves.
No, people do short time. You pay for an hour, you pay for 2 hours. That you should never go to an hotel without dropping your ID card, so that we can identify everybody that goes into the police station at the time that...
The hotel rooms, and they should just come and comb Old Ojo Road in Lagos. They will have a few days on that one. I'm telling you. So we are afraid that this might be moving, but then again, it will be wrong to generalize or profile certain people and say this is what.
Because what do you think it is? When I first saw it, I thought it was jazz. That was my first thought, because there was a white and
it's easy if you've experienced what they call the Bado in Lagos. Because if there's a white cloth, tied hands and legs and all those kind of things, the Bado one used to end with a stone, so crushing the skull of the victims. And this is another style.
Good. We have a phone call. Good morning. Welcome to the show, all the way from Port Harcourt.
Please.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
All right, please, I'm calling in respect of the killings of women in Port Harcourt. I think it's high time women learn their lessons. I don't know if this is why these things have been happening over time. I don't know women just put themselves in danger. How can a woman, you don't know somebody takes you out and you follow? It is not a good thing. It's a very shameful act.
Okay, so that's the
blame the victim. We can't blame the victim, but yes, I understand where it's coming from. But we mustn't blame the victim. The person that did wrong did wrong.
So let's not say that it's wrong, all right? But this is
not the
time.
Murdered.
No, I'm talking to Vibrant, for instance, now. Yes, it's not right for you to go with strangers or people you don't know without protecting yourself. At least you should have someone with you if it's a business meeting or whatever the case may be. But this is not the time for that admonition. We're dealing with a murder case here, and I think the right authority is already doing what they need to, which is the police.
Do about it.
Yeah, so that's what I'm about to say as well, which is when crimes are committed in Nigeria, mostly when it involves murder of women, we seem to blame the person who has been killed. We need to shine a light on the people that do this thing. So we're assuming that they are men, And this is also seen in cases of what they call Yahoo Plus, where they say that these boys do it so that they can get more money on you. And the person you blame is the girl. So for me, it's like you're sending a message to the boys that you can get away with it.
Just look for a loose girl.
Yes, the person, as far as the girl is a loose girl or she's a prostitute, then she deserves it. But if you put the blame on the perpetrator, maybe people would listen and learn from it that you are the guilty person here, and you are the one that is meant to serve punishment.
We're having calls from Port Harcourt. Good morning. Welcome to the show, Mr. Barry.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. Yes, I'm a first-time caller.
Welcome to the show.
I want to contribute to this issue of these serial killings in Port Harcourt on our women. And to be very, very candid, we must call a spade a spade. What is not right is not right. Every woman has the right to life, irrespective of what they do.
Thank you. That's one.
Nobody is permitted to kill anybody, take life out of anybody. It's the painful experience we are having currently. And this is exactly how the issue of kidnap started. It started from the wife.
First was okay.
And now today, kidnapping become a normal thing everywhere in this country. We should not apportion any blame to any woman or any girl that goes to a hotel. We should be able to put our blames on those that are killing these people.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you, Barry.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
We
sir.
have some tweets.
And they should just catch the people.
That's the only
That
solution.
is the only solution.
Yes.
Catch the people.
And stop the crime. He says, police response has been slow. That is the point. How can a senior police officer be talking of prostitution when we're talking about serial murder? Andrew says, don't mind them, Miriam. No human deserves to die needlessly, grow up in Nigeria. Omagwala says, whether the woman killed are prostitutes or not doesn't matter. Fact is that there's a serial killer and there's humanity first before morals. Who says it cannot extend to non-prostitutes?
Look, even if a murderer is killed in a prison after being charged, the person that killed the murderer will go for murder case.
Yes.
So,
What is wrong is
let's
wrong.
leave the work that the women do and face the crime.
And let our women protect themselves as much as possible.
Careful.
Be very,
Right
very
now.
careful. Next, when we return after the short break, we'll be discussing federal government's proposed plan to increase VAT. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. The federal government has introduced the Strategic Revenue Growth Initiative to generate more revenue to the finance of the national development. According to the report, the Federal Executive Council agreed to a 44% hike in the value-added tax. That is, the VAT is now moving from 5% to 7.2%. Joining us on the show, we have a tax specialist, Adesola. Welcome to the show. Good morning.
All right, thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And you can join the conversation by calling us on 07080668014, or you can tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweets. So, everybody is shouting. I'm telling you literally the day I was in my office and we heard the news. The surround system had the news that they've increased VAT. The owner of the salon was like, lie, they cannot do this because she just paid. Because there was a seal on her. You know when you don't pay, they put the seal there that you've been notified that non-compliance. She just paid and they removed the non-compliance, and she was saying, why are they charging me more money? I am using generator. I have a pumping machine. My road is like, what exactly are they doing this for? And that is a mirror of what many Nigerians are complaining about, the mirror of what they are feeling right now. Do you believe that it's justified for us to increase our VAT at this time?
Okay, thank you again for having me. Let me explain to you that it's not new that the guy in the barbing shop is complaining. Let me remind you that Apostle Peter, who was an apostle as at that time, when Jesus Christ told him, go ahead and pay taxes, Apostle Peter was complaining to the extent that the Lord have to say, go to the mouth of the fish and bring out the money and pay them. He paid reluctantly. So it's natural. Nobody likes taxes. Nobody likes increment in tax. Nobody likes to pay in the first place. So it's not unusual. It's not abnormal that the person complains. Okay, so, but what is abnormal in the case of Nigerian system is that, you know, I'm not a civil engineer, but in construction engineering, when your foundation is faulty, you try and work on the foundation you don't heap, you know, mortar and blocks and bricks on that faulty foundation. So the problem we have in Nigeria is that the foundation, the base of value-added tax is wrong. A lot of lacuna, a lot of problem with it, and government is supposed to be sensitive enough to work on the lacunas. You need to
highlight them, please?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
okay. So what are the lacunas? You know, the tax is supposed to be a wash-through tax in the sense that when you render vatable services and product, you are supposed to add VAT to it and say, government, you give me an enabling environment, a conducive environment for doing my business, and because of that, I'm collecting 5% of the VAT from you. And if I have suffered VAT in the process of production that led to this particular output VAT, you are supposed to deduct that from the output VAT, and then you pay the balance to the government. So, and in a situation where what you have paid on the goods and the services before you get to the point that you are selling to another individual, you are supposed to get that. And if you are not able to get that, maybe you have output VAT, which is the VAT you charge, being more than the input VAT, which is the VAT you suffered. Then the balance the federal government is supposed to pay to you. But I tell you,
The system isn't working.
getting that is like, you know, going to, at the head of the needle. The camel going through the head of the needle. Not only that, you have a lot of provisions in the law that they are very ambiguous. You can't tell where it is. What is exported services? That is not defined. A lot of problem with the tax law.
The current system, and they were now heaping more on it. We have an economist joining us on the phone. His name is Wale Edun. Are you with us, sir?
Yes, good morning. I'm with you.
Fantastic. So you've heard his own angle, and the question to him was that, does he believe that, do you believe, sir, that the 7.2% that we're going to pay now is justified, considering that a lot of Nigerians are complaining even over the 5% that we're not seeing the effect of paying VAT as it is? What's your opinion?
Well, the reality is that this mooted increase in VAT has been in the works for some time. Okay. And if you look at it, even just in comparison with what's happening globally or even on the African continent, you find out that the rate of 5%, which we are currently charged before this increase, is a third of what happens elsewhere when you look at Egypt, Ghana, Kenya, South Africa, and Ethiopia. They are all basically 15%, or in Egypt's case, 14%. So when you look at it in those terms, the VAT that we are charged, essentially a sales tax, really, that we are charged, is relatively low. But that's looking at it in isolation. When we look at it in terms of where the economy is and what we need to do, we need to grow the economy. We need to give people jobs as a way of reducing poverty. So when you look at it from that angle, we're looking to stimulate the economy at this time. And so maybe even though VAT is essentially justified, the increase is justified because the rate is low, you may say that the timing of it is a bit, maybe it's not the best, because at the time you're trying to stimulate, you're actually putting a bit of a brake on the economy by increasing taxes and reducing people's income in their pockets.
Fantastic, thank you.
So the Ministry of Finance is saying that the reason that they're doing this is to help the state governments with the new minimum wage that has been it's agreed upon, because they're still going back and forth. And the state governments may not be able to, with the resources given to them, be able to carry this new burden. Is this the best way to handle this particular issue, or are there options? Because I've heard people even talk about security funds. Maybe they should look into that instead.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head. The issue is of the various options, policy options, the instruments and the tools that you have at any given time, which one is the best? I mean, we agree that VAT is relatively low. And we also know that it's relatively easy to collect. and it's collected quite efficiently over time. You know, since even over the last 4 or 5 years, VAT collection has increased 20% from about 800 billion to now over 1 trillion naira annually is collected as VAT. It's almost a 20-25% increase. So there's been some efficiency there, and that's attractive to the authorities. As you say, 85% of the VAT collected actually goes to the states and local governments, 50% to the states, 35% to the local governments, and it is the federal government just gets a 15%, as they call it, administrative charge for helping with the collection. However, should that be used for paying salaries? Well, increase in salaries is also one form of stimulus and increase in liquidity. But I think the real increase that we need is one that will really add value to the economy in terms of improved infrastructure that allows
small businesses
improvement in productivity and economic growth. But it's a question of choices, and the political masters do have the right to make these choices, and it's a question of which option we want to take. And at this time, since VAT has actually the increase has been announced, it's a question really of if this actually is a bit of a brake on the economy, what other things can be done to increase liquidity to stimulate investment and therefore economic growth?
Yeah, because I was just going to say, before you said what you did, and directing to the gentleman in the studio as well, in these countries that you're talking about where they have high VAT charges, their system works for them. Like there is light. You are not using your money to buy diesel. You are not using your money to repair your generator. You are not using your money to tar your roads. Some people tar their roads. Some people, you know, there are so many things. We're building boreholes, repairing boreholes, buying pumping machine for the boreholes. So all these kind of things.
Well,
so I mean, we now, that is why a lot of people resent paying these added charges.
Yes, I mean, you said many things there. Clearly, in these countries, I wouldn't say that everything
clearly we are frustrated.
But they have better, maybe they are given more light and they have better infrastructure. But it's not really because the VAT, that's not the basis on which they increase their VAT to 15%. I think that even in South Africa today, there's relatively low growth. It's almost in recession, and they still have that high rate. So the issue of infrastructure and services is one that has to be tackled by a comprehensive program of investment in the key areas. We continue to say it, and I suppose we'll continue to repeat it. There must be investment in power. There must be investment in physical infrastructure and in transport, road, rail, and even water transport as a basis for growing the economy. But, you know, we're not, taxes are something we have to pay. If they give us a tax to pay, we can't say, well, we will wait until we are given what we see as satisfactory to us in terms of life and so forth before we pay. Clearly, the willingness to pay increases when we see that the money has been well spent.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's what we are saying.
If you notice, that has happened in some states. In states where people felt that, look, when they look around, they turn the tap, they see water.
They are more willing to pay.
And they see better roads. It has improved the willingness to pay. Lagos is a case in point. But at the end of the day, I think we always have to live with the fact that the authorities and our political masters have to make these choices and these options.
Your choice of words, our political masters. Thank you, Mr. Wale Edun. Thank you so much for your contribution. We'll let you go now and bring the conversation back into the studio to Mr. Adesola.
I was going to ask that, you know, we've seen all the indices that they've considered, but I think government is not looking into social online entrepreneurs now. People are looking for smarter ways to do business. So if I am a small business and I'm producing, Of course, I do not necessarily need registration because I have a free level to advertise my product, sell, and get my money without paying VAT. People will start to look towards that angle of doing business, or what do you think?
All right, you are very correct, and let me take it this way. You know, we are talking about a fiscal policy here, and a fiscal policy is a tool that the federal government has the right to use to kind of adjust the economy in a particular direction they are looking at. IMF were very clear as to what is fiscal policy should be. It should be a smart policy, and there are 5 indices you can use to test whether the fiscal policies you are bringing is smart. Number 1 is that it must be counter-cyclical, in that it must be able to enable the business to run, to flow on its own. You look at the economy when it is bad, and then you lower tax rate, and then you increase spending so that there can be more money to the consumer and to the businesses, so that an average person can be comfortable. If that is not happening, that fiscal policy is not smart. And then it says it must be, what's it called? Growth friendly. And there are 3 pivotal things you use to analyze whether it is growth friendly. Number 1, there must be capital accumulation that bring real investment. Exactly. There must be population. I mean, the populace must feel it in terms of the people, the labor. There must be industrialization. People must get job, and not only that, productivity. The number of production in terms of productivity per hour must increase. If that is not happening, then you have not done anything. Smart. And it's not smart. And then it says that, there must be inclusion. Everybody must feel better when you introduce a fiscal policy to adjust things. That is not happening at the moment. Not only that, it says that there must be not only inclusion, there must be strong tax capacity to support the fiscal policy. So
I'll pause you on that note, and we'll take a quick commercial break right now. When we return, we'll continue from our tax capacity as individuals to pay this new VAT. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, I know that for some people, they don't understand the difference between the 5% or the 7.2%. It does not directly affect them. And so I want you to break down the direct impact of this increase on people's lives in a way that they're able to understand it.
All right. Thank you very much. To make it very simple, what this increment is talking about is that if you are making your hair with your barber for 100 naira, you are going to add 2.2% to what you are paying before, in which case it's going to go up. If your fashion designer, the one we call tailor, was collecting 1,000 naira from you, that presupposes to have been inclusive of VAT anyway, and so you are going to have an increment to that. What that does to you is that it reduces your purchasing power. What that does to you is that it makes you to be able to spend less than what you have been spending. And of course, it frustrates business. Let me tell you the effect. Apart from you personally, it affects, of course, they are going to argue that they are going to use it, just like you said, to pay the minimum wage. There's going to be increase in revenue. They want to use to finance balance budget deficit. They want to use it to give you more infrastructure. But they will not talk about the fact that it's going to increase the prices of goods and services. Yes. And that affects an average Nigerian. They are not going to talk about the fact that if those prices goes up, an average person who buys these goods, they are not going to be able to buy, and that will reduce profitability of corporate organizations, corporate businesses. The implication of that is that you are likely going to have lower employment rate than what we have now. You are going to have inflation rates going up, and all of these affect an average individual. So what the government is trying to do, in my own word, is that they are trying to jump. You know there is turbulence in the air, in your aircraft, in your airplane, and then you discover there's a problem. You don't check about the parachute, whether it's working well. And you just jump out of the plane. That's what they are trying to do. They need to work on. So let's talk about.
We know. Sorry, Nima. If they increase the salary to 30%, 30,000, I mean. That means that 30,000 will still be like the 18,000.
That you
Because
were
you are
getting
paying
before.
more tax.
If not worse.
Than,
If not worse.
That's it's and worse.
So I'm worried that, yes, every business owner selling a product or service will collect this tax. But how does government make sure that, their collection on their own end, remittance is important,
Okay,
it's
so
done well, compared to what are the figures?
Federal Inland Revenue Service is saddled with the responsibility of collection and management, administration of this type of task. So it is their responsibility to get that done. And just like what you have said, what you observe is that a lot of micro and medium enterprises are not even in the tax net in the first place. So last year, they said they got the highest, which is true, 1.1 trillion. But of course, when you look at the GDP, when you look at the GDP, which is put at 397 million, about $398 million, they said about 73% of that was consumption. I mean, subject to the adjustment of zero-rated and exempted, which I don't want to go into. Okay, so it means that we have the possibility of making about 7 trillion in the first place. So if you have made 1.3 trillion, it means you have about 4 trillion that is there that you are not doing. So are we paying for your inefficiency in operation? Are we now paying for ineffectiveness? And let me warn that when you increase, what you are going to do is that a lot of people are not going to evade more. They are going to run away. And in actual sense, the amount you are going to be collecting as VAT revenue might likely to reduce.
Can I ask you this question? Because, okay, someone like me, because I'm on TV, because my brother is a musician, because, Africa Shine, I can't escape VAT. I can't escape tax. Because if I try, they will catch me. But there are people who are living under the radar. They don't pay VAT. They don't even pay tax. How are they going to even start to try those people? Or catch those people?
Before you answer, let me take this phone call.
There are rich people, excuse me. The other people, the rich people too. 80% of them don't pay anything. It is us. The people that they perceive that are in social,
your businesses are accessible, visible businesses.
The ones that are making their millions and billions, they don't see them.
Before you answer, let me just take this phone call.
Pay less and charge those people more.
Akonde, welcome to the show. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Thanks for calling us.
I'm calling from London.
You're welcome to the show.
I wanted to make a contribution.
Go ahead, please.
As you can hear from it's Akombi, A-K-A-M-B-I.
Oh, Akombi.
What I wanted to say, I live part of my time in Nigeria, and what I find is that the government, where there's money to be made, they implement certain things without the population having the benefit. You're talking about that. You're talking also about, you spoke about the airports, etc. As someone who travels from the West to Nigeria quite often, I was concerned that I've traveled on the particular airline in various parts of the world. And I said to I queried the airline once, so I said, why is it the fares to Nigeria so expensive? Do you know what they said? It's not to do with us. It's to do with the Nigerian government. So they're getting lots of money because there are lots of flights coming from all over the world every day into Nigeria. But there should be no problem in terms of finance to bring that airport up to standard, international standard. Another thing is you have tax. As far as the road is concerned, you have all these, what do you call them? The people who look after the road. There's no benefit. You have bad roads. Then there is the situation, as White said, about having to run your home like you run a city. So when people find that they're paying and paying and paying and cannot see what they're paying for, then that brings a feeling of being disgruntled.
Yes.
And I will say, instead of implementing various things that they're copied from abroad, say in the Western world, where we have services. Right now, for example, I will finish short.
I'm so sorry I need to cut you off because we're running off the segment. Really sorry, but thanks for your contribution,
Listening
Akombi.
to Akombi now, wouldn't you agree with her that, you know, certain government expenses should also be removed, like the subsidy payments and all, you know, reduce capital expenditure when it comes to running government?
Before answering her, YK was made
yes, I
asked
just
a
also
question.
wanted to add something to what YK said. I'm thinking VAT is a consumption tax, so everybody pays it.
Yes.
So that's different
What
from
is
what
different?
you... That tax, everybody, as long as you buy something...
Whether you're rich or poor,
whether
you will pay it.
as long as
but
you buy
the person
something.
that is selling has to remit the tax. So you are the one remitting it because you've added it. You're meant to add it to everything that is purchased in
I
your
won't get customer
place.
again.
That is what he's saying.
Is it every item?
That's what he's saying.
That's VAT is paid?
That's the breakdown. That
every item.
businesses are going to suffer with this because if the businesses want to make profit, they would increase their bills.
Prices.
They will increase their
buying
prices
it is
and
the person
then
that bears the
it will
loss.
reduce what they are getting. So you have like 2 minutes to, like 1 minute.
To answer your question, I think that's one of the things the federal government should introduce. In other West African countries, in other African countries, they have threshold of those who will be chargeable to value-added tax. So, for example, in Botswana, for you to register, you must have 33 million naira.
Wow.
As annual
So
turnover
I
before you
shouldn't
can be
pay.
captured.
That's fantastic.
In South Africa,
That means
it's
I
about-
shouldn't be paying VAT again now.
55 million.
Nigeria
In Ghana, it's about 50
But we don't
million.
have in Nigeria.
We don't have
Nigeria
that.
is not like that.
We don't have
That is one of the
Nigeria.
problems they need to solve. They need to bring threshold in there.
Into
and
it.
make
That would
the
help
management
smaller
to be more
businesses
effective.
work out.
It's also a fact
We
that
need
not
to
all
go.
businesses, not all products.
Yes.
tax.
But every consumer product should be taxed, and we're expecting the government to bring in a threshold for this thing so that not all businesses that are low income will be paying this amount of money.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your contribution. I hope you learned something. Yes. Well, we'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll be discussing updates on the xenophobic attacks. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We are going to xenophobia again.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. It's been a very informative show so far. Following the xenophobic attacks on foreigners, especially Nigerians in South Africa, lots of Nigerians have returned home. Report has it that South Africa has been begging Nigerians to come back as their economy has not remained the same since Nigerians left. Joining us on the show to give more insight is the president of Public Relations Consultants and Association of Nigeria, Jaye Okpayemi. Welcome to the show. Good morning.
Are you sure that one is not Fabusha?
No, but there are two sides to this story. That one, a lot of Nigerians that would have traveled to South Africa within this period have not gone because they didn't feel safe. A lot of people even cancelled their trips to South Africa. So, and that is money they're expecting that did not show up. And definitely many Nigerian businesses, the 800 and over 1,000 Nigerians that have said they are coming back are not opening their shops. So that means that some businesses have shut down, and that is also going to impact on their economy. So, sir, break down what is happening now in South Africa and the effect of Nigerians leaving.
Well, first, I need to say that Nigeria happens to be one of the 16 markets that South Africa identified globally as key markets. They actually wanted to market themselves, to. Meaning that these are the 16 markets they were hoping that tourists will come from and spend money within the South African economy. So having a huge chunk of Nigerians then leaving simply means that there's going to be some distortion expectedly in their economy. But that said, I think perhaps we need to put things in perspective. I like to dimension problems. And I would like to say that by saying the xenophobic attacks may stop, but let us ask ourselves if xenophobia itself will stop. Now, the word xenophobia itself is a fusion of two words, xeno and phobia. Xeno simply means foreign or alien, and phobia means fear. Now, there is very little the Nigerian government, the South African government can do, even though there are things they can do to address xenophobia. Now, such as, providing jobs for black South Africans and all of that. But on our own side, Nigerian government also has a responsibility because we can stop the xenophobic attacks, but we may not be able to stop xenophobia because people largely misunderstand us as Nigerians. By nature and by our DNA is terrifying and very intimidating.
You are loud.
Can I raise the volume? Our DNA is terrifying and very intimidating. So sometimes merely looking at us, people just feel we are up to some harm.
Wow.
I once had an experience. We're doing I wouldn't like to mention the country. We're doing a business with one of our partners in one of the African countries. Then I noticed that this guy will always call me at 4:30 a.m. in the morning, and he will just say he's just trying to check on me. Then he will call me again and say he's trying to find out if the money has dropped. So I had to speak to a colleague of ours who was based in that particular country. And I said, what's the problem? He said, these guys are afraid of us by our DNA, not because you have done anything criminal, just merely by our DNA. And what's the nature of our DNA? We are boisterous by nature. We are creative, we're loud, we have this never say die spirit. So our African brothers and sisters are usually very afraid of this. That these guys
they come and take over.
They can practically take over. And that was how that colleague of mine helped to define that problem to me, to dimension that problem to me, that you haven't done anything wrong. This guy is just checking that, by nature, you can practically take over.
Let's build on this, our DNA that we talk about. Yes. Because everything right here seems to be failing. An average Nigerian will go abroad and say, me, I'm out of that zoo. Everybody's looking for visa. Why is our DNA not working at home? Why can't we make it work here?
I like that.
That's a very interesting question. And perhaps my appeal is that Nigerians should stop demarketing Nigeria. Yes. We are a great people, and I'll give you an example. I felt so proud. I was in Botswana last year, and I mean, as typical of me, I like to talk to the locals, from the cab drivers to the women who sell. So I asked the taxi driver. I said, "Are there Nigerians here?" He said, "Oh yeah, Nigerians are here." I said, "How are they doing?" So, "Oh, Nigerians are great." I said, "Have you been to Nigeria before?" He said, "No." I said, "So what do you know about?" He said, "Nigerians are great." He said, "When there is a crime and the police go to the scene of the crime, when they begin to profile and separate people, once they ask and say, you are a Nigerian, and you say you are a Nigerian, they just say, go." So I said, "Why?" He said, "In Botswana, if a fight breaks out in a club or in a pub, just know that it's as a result of the fact that probably people have had too much booze, and that's why they are fighting. But you will never find a Nigerian in Botswana committing a crime, maybe internet fraud or whatsoever." That made me proud. And I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people that will never travel and put my passport in a pouch. I will always travel with my passport in this particular fashion to show that I am proudly Nigerian.
But you just said that they are scared of or this xenophobia might not go because they feel like Nigerians are really aggressive. Yeah. You know, one of the issues they had, one man that was killed was because he married a South African, and they feel like Nigerians are taking their women away. Those kind of things are not going to stop now. Yes. So, and you were going to say what Nigeria can do, yes, because this is something that is their own territory. We can't go there and enforce any law. We can only mediate or probably apply pressure on companies that are in Nigeria. So what exactly can Nigeria as a government do to protect our Nigerian citizens in South Africa and other countries where they are being terrorized or attacked?
Okay, I like to separate the security imperatives from the brand imperatives, because that's where I play as a professional. Now, first and foremost, let us even take a lesson from what South Africa itself did in the early 2000s. South Africa was stigmatized as a country that was known for just, HIV/AIDS, prevalence. What did the South African government do? How did the South African government respond? By 2002, by August 2002, the South African government created an agency known as Brand South Africa. What was the responsibility of Brand South Africa? Just create a compelling brand for South Africa as a nation. And then they separated South Africa Tourism. South Africa Tourism had the responsibility to market South Africa. I have been saying, as well as some of my colleagues who have been saying to government, that until the Nigerian government consciously creates some of these institutions, one, that will be responsible for marketing Nigeria as a destination. The second one that will be responsible for managing Nigeria as a brand.
Good people, great nation.
Oh, I don't even want to go into what that particular experience was like. Now, interestingly, one of the countries that did that great job for South Africa in 2002, 2003, 2004, up till 2007, was a company founded by a Nigerian. And I brought that same company to Nigeria, took that same company to the federal government in Abuja, and I said, look, you do not need to pay the school fees twice. Our brothers in South Africa have paid the school fees. Here is the blueprint. Let's just run with this blueprint. We need to tell our own story.
Because there's crime in South Africa, yet they're able to market tourism.
Absolutely.
But there's also partnership with private sector, because most of the tourist destinations in South Africa are not exactly government-owned. A lot of them are investments by people, just like you have what you have in Dubai, hotels and all that. There's an enabling environment for those businesses to thrive. Why are we not doing the same here?
So that's a very good question. The thing is that once you try to make this effort a government-led effort, it will never succeed. The role government needs to play is the role of an enabler, to bring the private sector together, to say, look, we have gotten great Nigerians all across the globe, from Dr. Olutoye to Chimamanda, to say, how can you help us to bring all of these people? We have celebration. We have Fela himself. I'm always very afraid to refer to him as in the past tense. You understand what I mean? So we still have all of these people. These are great icons, Wole Soyinka, around which the authentic Nigerian story can be told until we tell that story. And like Chino Achebe will say, until the lions hire their own historians, the story of the hunt will always glorify the hunters.
Can I just say something? Because Nigerians are, in my own estimation, I've been to a lot of countries all over the world, and even in France, where we don't speak French, Nigerians are full there.
In Iceland, too.
We are so many all over the world. What are we running from? That's number one. I watched a South African complaining about Nigeria, xenophobia, and that we Nigerians were very arrogant. This is what he was saying, that we Nigerians were very arrogant, and we will be saying xenophobia. But what are we all, how many South Africans do we see in Nigeria? Maybe they are all in South Africa, but we are the ones that will go and queue and be looking for, what's that thing? When,
yellow card.
Is it in our DNA to migrate?
We will go and queue in South Africa for refugee status.
Asylum, seeking
asylum.
In the US, yeah.
We will go and do, we'll be saying, South African visa is too hard to get. And then he says, it's in Nigeria, light doesn't work, this doesn't work, that doesn't, everything he was saying, I was listening to it.
And it was very true.
He was like was telling you, why are you people complaining? Your country is not working. The truth of the matter is if our country was working, we will not all be outside. To make money, all these boys and girls, women, all these ladies and men that have come back from South Africa, they were all making a good living in South Africa. And there is no guarantee that when they come back, they're going to make that kind of living.
Let's take this phone
call.
They
will now, sorry. Oh,
please, Eniola.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Welcome to the show all the way from Ekiti. Good morning. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I should go ahead?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah. I want to inform you, Good morning. Talk me, how are you?
You're listening to yourself. I'm so sorry.
Miss Morayo.
I'm so sorry. You're listening to yourself. Yeah, please go ahead.
You cut me off halfway.
No, she's not done.
So, to me, I believe that if we do not work on making Nigeria a place where Nigerians want to stay, we have not started to move forward. That is my own, because check all the people here, ask them if they want visa to go and live abroad. Ask them.
How many of you want visa to live abroad? About 50%.
I think half of them want to go.
I think I can answer your question.
Okay, go on.
I think I can answer that question. By human nature, people will always migrate.
Indians are everywhere.
Everybody migrates.
The reason they are migrating should then be an issue of concern to us. Now, are there Americans in Nigeria? Yes.
How many?
Yes, the population may be a different ball game entirely.
There are Indians.
But there are Indians here.
And there are Chinese here.
There are Chinese here.
All those ones are making millions here.
There are French people here.
And their country isn't bad like that.
There are French people here.
To their own country.
So the issue is, if there is a reason people are leaving, if people are leaving, I know, for example, a Nigerian who has a very top job in one of the banks in South Africa. She didn't leave Nigeria because she wanted to apply for asylum, or she wanted to be a liability in South Africa. And there are Nigerians who are doing phenomenally well
Mariam, 30 seconds.
In South Africa.
Yes, that's what I said, yeah.
Okay, so my question is, I just want to bring it back home. I want to bring it back home to what has just happened.
Okay.
So we have an envoy that came to Nigeria and he talked and apologizing to Nigeria. So for me, it shows that we are very important in South Africa in the economy and part of their governance. So what do you think we should demand of them now that they have apologized? A lot of people are saying, is it just enough that they apologize and then we'll just go back? Especially as when these people were coming, they canceled some of their returning visas. So for me, it's one thing to send an envoy, and then it's something else to show that you really want them back by canceling their envoy. Are they being sincere with their apology? Should Nigeria just, excommunicate South Africa altogether and find different places that they can go?
He cannot answer that question today.
Why not?
Because we're still waiting for the House of Assembly to decide on what our own request would be, and we are out of time.
Right.
So that's all we can take on the show today. We're totally out of time. We appreciate Cadbury Bonvita for the beverage that they gave to all our audience. Thank you so much. Bonvita now has a new improved taste, and we also thank Cream Slices for the beautiful cake that they will share later. We didn't put it up today, and that's what we can take on today's show. Conversation can still continue online. You can answer Mariam's question with your suggestions on Twitter. She would read it and reply you. See you all tomorrow. Have a great day.